Hello, welcome to the second episode of the Lad Pad podcast. Back here with Andy, Lewis, and Tom. I think Andy's frozen again.
Oh, bloody hell.
You're right there, fella. Anyway, Lewis and Tom, how are you today?
No, I'm good, mate. I'm all good.
Good. Andy, how are you? You're back?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm back now. Yeah, that was
Good.
shocker for me there, mate.
So today's a bit of an interesting one. So we're actually going to talk conspiracy theories today. So I say all of us, bar Tom, have done a bit of research into a conspiracy today. And we're just going to talk about it and see what you boys think about it. So shall I start? Shall I kick things off, or do one of you want to start?
You kick things off, Tim.
No, you can start, mate. You can start.
Okay.
I need a rest from all of it.
Okay, so mine is that the Great Pyramids and Egypt in general were assisted with aliens. Now, what are your initial thoughts on that? Do you reckon?
You're full of shit.
I reckon I believe some of that because I've watched like so many videos. I reckon I've been through a phase, where you just watch so many videos and just shite like that.
Yeah.
And I've just watched too many. Just think, there actually is true. Like, there's so much stuff like with it, like that goes like not against it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for like alien pyramids, but if it hasn't. I don't mind. But I'm for it, but I'm not against it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And Tom, what do you reckon? Do you reckon there's any truth behind it, or a load of rubbish?
Load of rubbish, I reckon.
Load of rubbish. Okay.
Yeah, not a fan of that.
So, I've got a few notes down.
Is he wearing?
I've got a few notes down here. So, I'll set the scene, all right? So, I'm on about the Great Pyramids of Giza, you see, the Gizas, all right? So, the blocks that they're made of, right, they weigh between 2.5 and 15 tons, and it was said they used... Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I was just again.
Oh, no worries. So the blocks were said to be carried by people dragging it on wooden blocks and down the river, but there's no woods that could carry that kind of stone. All right. So that's the first point. We're just setting the scene here. Next point, right? The most of other pyramids in Egypt that aren't these three are not standing anymore. They've been destroyed. They weren't strong enough to be upheld for the same length of time. So initial thoughts. Any? Do you reckon? What do you think about that to start with? Especially you, Lewis, because you and Tom are quite sceptical about this from the get go.
I'm sure that there was a lot of pieces of wood that they used to drag the stone. So obviously I wasn't there. So I can't give you gospel and tell them that is how it was. But they had a few, because they used to use the Jews as slaves, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
We had millions of slaves back then, so like millions of people doing it.
Sure, like a couple thousand people could push it once to move a block, like 10 steps, and then they'll continue doing that over and over again through time.
I've heard that back then as well, the Egyptians were like 8 foot plus and like weren't like the size we were, and they were like massive compared to us now. So they were a lot stronger and a lot more, just a lot more stronger than we were now. And then we've just evolved into what we are now. But like they were just like massive people back then.
Big people. And Tom, what are you thinking so far?
Well, I've got to be honest, I haven't really got a clue what you're on about.
do you know the three pyramids in Egypt? The big one?
Well, yeah, I know that, yeah.
So the blocks they're made of are 2.5 to 15 tons, and there's no wood that could have been. They were said that people carry them, like drag them up the slope and make them into the pyramid, but there wasn't wood strong enough, and they'd bring it down the River Nile on wooden boats. But if the wood's not strong enough, they're just going to sink the boat.
Yeah, that's poor from them.
Yeah, so what are you thinking a minute, Tom? Still humans or alien interaction?
No, still humans.
Okay.
Still back in the boys.
Back in the boys. So, but the next part, this is where it gets a bit weird. This is where I think this is what convinced me. Okay, is the maths that were involved in making this. So, one block of what makes a pyramid is measured in one. It's called a royal cubit. Okay, so that's the length that it was measured in back then. And one side of a pyramid is 365.242 cubits long, and that is equal to the exact same length of a earthly year to the quarter that makes up a leap year. And that was what I thought that was really strange. Okay, and then the length and the width of the pyramid correspond to the exact fraction of latitude and longitude measurements at the equator. So where it crosses like that, where it goes up and across, it meets it perfectly on the equator. And then the measurements of this pyramid, if you scale it up, the length, like the perimeter of it, is a scaled version of the equator, and the height of it is a scaled version if you went the distance from the equator to the North Pole. That's the maths involved with it. So that's what I thought, and I've even put a mind blown emoji. Right, so it's the scale of the Northern Hemisphere. Does that make sense?
I just think that's a coincidence.
Coincidence?
Yeah,
No.
it's a big coincidence, though, isn't it?
No, that's not a coincidence. Can't be.
Yeah, but I swear back then they didn't know that the world was that big.
It's aliens.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. One side is the same. The number is the same as a year, right down to the quarter length of a day, and it's a scaled down version of the Northern Hemisphere. That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm like.
How many bricks were on like one layer, like the base? How many bricks were in the pyramid?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. I'll quickly Google that a second. If you've got any initial thoughts, then feel free to go ahead. Because
if it's something like there's 20 blocks each side, it's just like that's how it is. It's a coincidence.
So there were more. So altogether, there were more than 2.3 million blocks in the whole pyramid. So the base is going to have quite a few to get it supported. But it also says if 50 centimeters too big or too small, the whole thing would have collapsed and it wouldn't be possible. So it wouldn't be able to sustain the weight.
They just got some good mathematicians, didn't they?
But they didn't have maths back then. They didn't have that kind of maths because even Pythagoras' theorem with the triangles wasn't even a thing back then.
Got a point, Lewis. Got a point.
So that's what I'm saying, right? So, Tom, what are you thinking at this point? What's your thoughts here?
You've done quite a lot of good research, I reckon.
Oh, I got the maths involved. But do you think?
Yeah, fact kind of baffled him, I reckon.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know what all those words mean.
Do you reckon it's pure coincidence so far still?
Yeah, coincidence.
Oh, okay. And
yeah.
Okay, so then scientists did they had obviously have satellites in the sky, and they plotted the exact coordinates of the Great Pyramid. And the coordinate of the Great Pyramid is 29.9792458, okay? And that number sequence is exactly the same as the speed of light traveling in space in meters per second. That's another maths coincidence. That's what I'm saying. There's too much maths involved. But this is the thing that gets me, okay? The three pyramids of Giza, they line up with the constellation. So the constellation is a group of stars forming a pattern. So they line up exactly with the three stars of the Orion's belt, which is a star in the sky. And there's other structures around the Earth that line up with these stars as well, built in threes. And is that still coincidence, do you reckon?
Yes, I do, mate.
No, it can't be.
I could look up at the sky and be like, right, I'm going to build it right here because that one gives me perfect light.
No, but that's not how it works, I don't think. Because it's big. These are stars millions of miles away. I'm talking here, light years.
You've kind of outdone me here, but I still don't quite believe it was aliens.
Okay, what about this? the Great Pyramids, Machu Picchu in Peru, and Stonehenge in England. If you drew a line goes across all three around the world. If you drew a line around the world from starting in one, it goes through all three. And there's other ones in it as well, but I couldn't list them because I didn't understand the names. But there's other structures that people say are built by aliens all along this line. So what do you reckon to that?
What if you drew lines in different directions? They will join up.
No. If this was the Great Pyramids here, and I just drew like a circle around it, starting from it, it would go through Stonehenge, so in England, and Machu Picchu, which is another two examples of people say are built by aliens. Exactly. So they go exactly through those places. And they didn't know these countries existed. So how could that be coincidence? And if one's in
I'm trying to do the circle in my head.
Oh.
He's got a speech impediment. I think he tried to say he's trying to do the circle in his head and it doesn't match.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from Egypt, Egypt's like slightly below England, isn't it? But down to the right a little bit. So drawing that line, but how does that go round to Peru?
It'd probably go like round here or something like that. Oh, and he's back.
Andy.
It was going so well. I made such a good point. Did you hear it?
No, we didn't hear any of it.
Oh God! I just
Andy's really struggling with the internet.
Area.
Okay, Tom. What about you? We'll go to you for a second. What do you think about this?
I still think it's a coincidence.
Piss take.
Oh, you're overlapping each other now.
Go on, Andy. Carry on.
I'll try and say it again. Yeah, if I'm going to have to recode it again. But basically, you said if you draw a perfect circle, or like a line, they can all go through Stonehenge and Machu Picchu. But Machu Picchu's in like South America, and Stonehenge is in England, and the pyramids in Egypt. So how are you going to make a circle that goes through all of them? That's a perfect circle without fucking it up.
Well, I don't do the maths.
I just being dumb.
No, I'm looking at it. Good point. I don't know, but that's what I read, and so that's what was said. So if that is true,
you've got to back your facts, Tim.
Well, I've tried. I've done my best here. If that was true, though, that's
it's a valiant effort.
Yeah, well, it's what I read online. I guess it shows don't believe everything you said online. But this is the other bit, okay? So the Great Pyramids are the big one, the biggest one in the world, is 360th of a degree off lined with true north. But over the years, the Earth axis shifts slightly. So when they first built it, it would have been exactly in line with true north and the North Star. Exactly. It would have been exactly in line with it. But they didn't have compasses back then, so how would they know that?
Because they look up at the sky and they'd see the North Star.
No, but also like in terms of line up with the North Pole as well. So it's on the north coordinate.
It's not hard because
they didn't know it existed.
Like if it's dark outside and you stood there and you can line up with the North Star by looking it up in the sky. So they've probably done that with literally they'd stand away from it and just be like, right, we want the tip to be in line with the.
No,
it won't ever be like, I don't know if it would be completely like 360 of the degree if you just line up with it with like naked eye.
Yeah.
So I think all is nice.
Yeah, you couldn't because you can see the North Star when you look at the sky, but if you try to get underneath it, you would be walking for miles before you actually reach to get underneath it exactly. So I don't.
But I thought it was in line with it. It was in line with true north. If it wasn't true north.
No, so it
is in line with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So a guy could stand there and draw out in the sand with a big stick where he's going to put the pyramid, and then he could just walk back from the centre to make sure that the line is in line with the North Star.
Where do they get the maths from? They didn't know the maths, and they've got to get the degrees right.
Well, they just looked up at the star.
No, but when you go back to building it at the bottom, if the degrees were a couple off, they are yards off at the top of where it could have lined up, and they didn't have degrees to measure degrees at the bottom. So how are they going to get the base level correct first to build it up properly?
Right. Have you ever seen a sun clock before?
It's like a stick in the ground.
Yeah. So, in how the sun moves tells you the time.
Yeah.
Just imagine that on a larger scale is how they've drawn that with the pyramids.
But they've got the degrees of it right with true north, but they can't measure degrees. They don't have a compass.
It's a shot in the dark, Tim's.
No, I'm saying it's true. This is the other thing. This is what I thought. This is the thing that tipped me off about the alien bit as well. Okay, I'm gonna have to share my screen here, so I don't know how well this is gonna go. But there's hieroglyphics, so like the drawings they carved in stone. Back then,
yeah,
there's a hieroglyphics that you can clearly see a helicopter and a jet, a military jet. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen real quick, and I want you to tell me how this works. Okay, can you?
There's another one, isn't there? There's
see my screen.
Yeah.
I've circled them. So this one here is a helicopter, the top left, and this one's a top right. This one's a jet.
The one above the jet looks like a tank as well.
Yeah, there you go. So what are you saying here? How do you explain that? How do you explain this, the helicopters and jumbo jets in their like drawings in the stone?
You can't.
No.
Lewis has stumped me.
Yeah, isn't there another hieroglyphic that if you cut the brain in half, it's the same. The shape of like how our brains formed is another shape of the hieroglyphic. I might be about an absolute shite, but I'm sure there's one that is similar shape.
I think so. I think I know what you're on about. But have you seen like the head shape of the people that ruled Egypt as well? It's like elongated.
That's what I'm talking about. They weren't human, mate. They weren't human.
They were strange donnies. I just want to go on record and say that I don't think ancient Egyptians or Egyptians are strange donnies at all.
They were human, maybe, but they just weren't like we were.
No.
It's evolved over thousands of years.
They're different. So to top it off, I think that aliens were involved in ancient Egypt. Andy, do you?
I reckon they had some sort of doing.
I think the maths involved with it all is too accurate to be all coincidental. Tom, what do you reckon?
No.
What would it take to convince you? So do you think all the maths is completely by chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not backing it. Lewis, I think I've swayed you a little bit.
I'm on the fence.
I think I've swayed you a bit.
I'm on the fence.
I think the maths there is too precise, where they didn't have rulers or anything for it to be coincidental.
Well, it's a lost civilization, isn't it? So we don't truly know everything about it. So they might have had maths back in the day. Yeah. They might have had maths, but we don't know how advanced their maths were to then be able to do that. But I think some of the numbers that you've pulled out are quite coincidental, like a pyramid is the same as the equator and all that. I think he just wanted
the perimeter
how it was, how big it was.
The perimeter of it is the exact same, if it's scaled correctly, is to the equator, and it's the same length from the equator to the North Pole. I don't think that's coincidence.
I think how the tip is in line with true north, I think that's quite easily done with a bit of planning behind it.
Right.
But yeah, with all the hieroglyphics, that's a bit coincidental.
Okay.
I think someone went wrong with a pencil.
Right, okay. So overall, it's 50-50 on it, I think, for all of us. So we'll go. I reckon Lewis will go with you next, and Andy, because you've got quite a long one, so we'll come to you last. Okay. So Lewis, you want to talk about what you've got here for us?
Right. So mine is about the government spying on us. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So with the advancements of phones and social media, the government use it to track the population through things like social media, how we talk through voice recognition, but also they've got hidden cameras around the globe watching us like 24/7.
Okay.
So first of all, I'll start with social media. Have you ever had it where you're Googling something, so you're shopping, and then you go straight onto Facebook or something, and then it comes up with the pop-up ads of what you want to do, and you're looking at the stuff that you were already Googling, and you find that a bit suspect.
I think that's a bit weird. That's happened to me a few times. It freaks me out.
I have done that, yeah.
So this is the cookies system. So when you agree on a web page to let them use your cookies, they collect all the data that you've got and then sell it to different brands. So say you're Googling for iPhones, and then you go on Facebook, all you'll see is your iPhone ads. So Apple will collect all your data and then we'll sell it to Facebook, Instagram, and obviously that's how it works. But also, social media sell all this information back to the government through what they call units,
right?
And for them to then see what we buy and sell, but also will then use more of that information to track on what we do on our social media.
Okay.
So Facebook currently sell 500,000 units back to the American government from their social media database that they've got. Apple sell 10,000 and Google sell 30,000.
Right.
So basically the government have free reign of all those people's data that they've got collected all in these databases.
Yeah.
And obviously Siri and Alexa.
Yeah.
Do you ever find it weird how they instantly reply to you as soon as you ask for something?
I've actually never used one before, so I don't know.
I turn my Siri off.
Like.
Okay. So are they always listening for you to say their name? How do you know that?
Go on, Karen.
So how do you know when they stop listening?
That's the thing. That's why I don't trust them. I wouldn't. Because I just don't know how much they'd take information from you.
Okay. So currently, as of my Google search, probably about an hour ago, Alexa is sold 100 million devices around the world.
Yeah.
So roughly 1 in 4 Americans have one in their household, and in the UK 1 in 5 have one in their household. But that's just Alexas. So obviously you've got the new ones like the Google Home and stuff like that. So through these, what do they hear is the main question, and where does all the data from what we say go? Because surely Amazon and Google don't record everything, but you can't say that they don't.
Yeah.
And also things like Siri will then pop up as soon as you say their name. Mine almost did then. And surely people know that they listen all the time.
Yeah.
Because a bloke called Snowden, if I've said his name right, once... hold on, let me bring it back up. Bear with me. So Edward Snowden revealed that there was an American program called the Optic Nerve.
Right.
And this operation was bulk buying surveillance programs under which they captured webcam images every 5 minutes from Yahoo and Google video chat users and then store them into a database. It is estimated between 3 and 11% of the images were captured and contain undesirable nudity. So imagine leaving your laptop open. So you step away.
Yeah.
You then get changed, and they will continue to snapshot these photos of you. Okay.
That's weird.
And obviously, it then goes into a little computer for however long, and it doesn't get deleted. For them then to then go back and open your file, so it'll be under your name because it's got your IP address and everything.
Yeah.
And then they'll be able to use these photos whenever. And obviously, this is how they capture terrorists. So they have what they call a red flag system. So they will see what you text people, what you say over phone calls, and it will flag like keywords like bomb in. Yeah. If you say the word bomb in with a location or area.
So does that mean you've just been? Does that mean you've just been recorded now saying the word bomb? Or we're going to get done because you've just said the word bomb.
Get another view.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. So they might be able to come into this video call and then realise that we're having a YouTube video about the government spying on us, and then the video will get taken down.
Yeah,
conspiracy theories.
You could have ruined our podcast there, Lewis.
Yeah. So it'd be.
Sorry.
So this means that security agencies like the FBI and CIA can go into any of our text messages that we've sent to the cloud and stuff like that, or they can join in on any of our calls whenever they want without any regulation. But obviously, this Edward Snowden got arrested. I can't remember when. It was quite a while back. And he now has to exile back to Russia to be safe, as he'll get arrested in America if he goes back for obviously treason, because he's kind of pulled the band-aid off all of the massive companies that are selling our data back to the government.
Yeah.
But there's things such as VPNs now that we can use to block these. So VPNs, you can use them to block apps and stuff, but also they're used to triangulate our IP address.
Right, okay.
So you can use them to watch banned things through, like, on Netflix, you can't get specific TV shows. You don't live in a specific country that they send it to. You can turn on a VPN, and then obviously it will then send your IP address over to this country, even though you're still sat in your house, for you then to watch these Netflix shows that aren't currently being showed in the UK.
So these YouTubers getting the ads.
What's that, Andy?
Yeah.
Every YouTube I watch now has just got a VPN ad, and they're saying, "I'll go on with VPN stuff."
I think all that surveillance stuff is dodgy. I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I can get, but that's why it's the grey. That's why it's grey, though, isn't it? Because if they're trying to do it for terrorists, then I guess they're doing it for the greater good. But if then people like us, if they're spying on what we're texting, I don't think that's right, personally.
Wow. But at the moment, they're currently trialing the way to have like a passport system for coronavirus. So obviously you'll get an app on your phone, and then you'll get tested, and then it'll be a traffic light system to see if you've got corona or if you haven't. And obviously, how do they then know where we're going if we have got coronavirus? So they might be using it to contain us, and obviously send a police officer or whatever to come over to us and tell us to go back in our house if we're not in our house.
Yeah.
Because potentially you could be infecting hundreds and hundreds of people by going to Maryland's when you've got coronavirus, and then give everyone in Maryland's coronavirus.
Yeah.
So, what do you boys think?
I do think though that they don't, as you say, Ollie, they don't have a right to. Yeah. But I think they're just trying to, in a way, protect us, like protect the country, because, like, as you say, like Lewis said, they flag up red flags like bomb and stuff. Without that, there's so many like terrorist attacks that haven't happened because of this, that they've been prevented. Imagine if we didn't have the surveillance, we'd have like so many terrorist attacks on us all the time.
But I guess
I can see why they do it, but as you say, it is against sometimes, but they do it for the what I'm saying.
I think that's how they get around it, though, because then they can just say, "Oh, we're looking for text just to look for terrorists." But I think that's the way they can disguise it, I guess. Because if they're saying that, then people are like, "Oh, I'm on board with it." But then as soon as they get their ads that they've just been looking at, I don't think they should sell your own data as well. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that's a bit of an odd thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get loads of money, and then
that's the people at the top, though, isn't it? Not us people that's just trying to look for a new pair of shoes.
You said, Lewis, you said how they said they sell it for units. But do you know how much like a unit costs? Like one per unit, how much that money costs, or how much they get?
I think it varies on how much data they've got on us. I don't know the exact number. Hold on, I'll have to give it a Google.
Well,
could you imagine Boris getting his iCloud hacked into, and we seeing all the pictures that he's been sending to his wife. I think that would be rather dodgy that they can just walk into his iCloud and go through all his pictures.
Yeah. That's just where it gets dodgy, though. As I say, I think that's why I think that's where they can just, that's their fallback. Oh, we're looking for terrorist plots or whatever, but we don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tom?
No, I think it's good from them.
Oh, right, okay.
I think it's good. Protect the
What?
country.
So you don't mind people seeing what you're searching up on Google and then giving you ads on Facebook for it?
No, I don't mind. I think it's quite useful, to be honest. I don't mind at all.
You think it's all good?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, all right. That's fair enough. What about you? Do you believe this theory? I guess you've laid out here. Do you believe it fully, or do you think it's up in the air? You're right there, Lewis.
Sorry, $48.
Okay.
Cost
So,
for a data unit.
So that's, and you said like they sell
single person.
500,000 units.
Yeah.
And one company sold 500. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah. And
2 mil.
You get a lot of money for
200
it.
mil. I don't need
Yeah.
this.
This is what I don't get, right? It would be illegal for one of us to phone up one of these companies, like Facebook or someone, and say, "Oh, can I have information on Lewis O'Loughlin?" But it's okay for them to sell it to these other advertisement companies to give you adverts on Facebook. That's where I think it's a bit wrong. Because if they can do it, why can't I find out information about someone? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't want to see you going through all my photos.
That's just what I don't know. It scares me, that the thought of that, of the people just watching us. I don't like it at all. But that's
so going back to your question, Tim, because I did hear you.
Yeah.
I do believe that this happens, but I'm not sure the severity of what I've said, like them being able to walk into our phones and stuff without any restrictions. I think that I think they are doing it, but there's laws around it to prevent people like you phoning up going, I want details on such and such.
Yeah.
But I think they only use their power that they've got with a bit of restriction to stop people from doing that such thing of completely opening up like a famous person's account, knowing all their details for their bank accounts and stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
Because in the end, one guy could make a lot of money by rinsing every famous person's account into one place and losing it all. So
yeah, pretty much. So that's that one. So I guess the end of the question is, Lewis, you believe it? I believe it happens and it's wrong. Tom, do you think it happens?
I think it happens, but I believe it's right.
You think it's right? Okay.
Yeah.
That extra view, yeah.
Yeah.
And Andy?
Yeah, I think it happens, but I mean they can do what they want, really, can't they? The government, no one's going to stop them, are they? So
is that why there was like kicking off in, like, I could be wrong here, I'm not political at all, so grill me if I'm wrong. But isn't that why there was like them riots in was it like Hong Kong or China, and the people were all covering their faces up because there were like cameras and like traffic lights, or there was like networking, they could see where people are in traffic lights.
There was something like that, wasn't there?
Yeah,
because China's really bad for it.
That's where it's a bit extreme.
Yeah,
that's where it's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, we could have just caused political tension because I'm not educated in that at all. But I think that's what I heard. Or it's something like that. So if a big one now, and he's probably done the most amount of research out of all three of us. He's got quite a few pages going, so he's going to do his best to condense it. But Andy, take the floor.
Yep. All right. So mine is on the JFK assassination. I just want to point out before I say everything. I just watched a video on it. It's Unsolved. So I don't know if you know the YouTube channel, but it's actually they're quite good videos they make. Really, they're really in depth. But
I've seen them.
I just want to say
funny.
that it's not my views. It's just what I've found. Yeah. So basically, kicking off the Friday, November the 22nd in 1963, JFK was shot in the head whilst in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas. And a motorcade is like just a group of vehicles, and he was in the middle. and he was getting escorted around Dallas. And I'll tell you a bit of why he was there. And he was struck by 2 bullets, and the second being a fatal headshot. And in the car with him, his wife was there, and the governor of Texas, John B. Connolly Jr., was in the car with his wife as well. And he was shot, but he survived. He survived the attack. And officially, 3 bullets were fired by the gunman, and the whole ordeal got caught on video by an amateur videographer called Abraham Zapruder. And these were later known as the Zapruder films, and they are an integral part in the investigation, which allowed a frame-by-frame analysis of what happened. All right. So the shooting occurred from the 6th floor window of the southeast corner of the Texas School Book Depository, so it's like a library. And the official ruling, when it just all sort of happened, was the shooter was a man named Harvey Lee Oswald, and Lee Harvey Oswald, sorry. Later on, 2 days later from the shooting, Oswald was caught, I believe, and shot by a man named Jack Ruby, who was from the Dallas Police Department. So he just saw him, captured and shot him. Many have criticised the motorcade route, as it had a very unusual amount of turns, because this would cause the car to slow down, making it easier for a gunman to shoot them, I believe. So yeah. And the route was chosen by 2 Secret Service agents, Winston G. Lawson and Forrest V. Sorrells. And the Secret Service operatives noted that there were 20,000 windows on the whole route. And since they had nowhere near enough men to actually man every single window, they just thought, fuck it, we aren't going to look at any of them. So they didn't inspect any of the windows because they just couldn't be bothered, basically. The official findings say there was only one shooter, and this was Lee Harvey Oswald, right? So that's what that commission thought. So the first theory, probably the big one, was created by the Warren Commission. Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated JFK and he acted alone. And there's no conspiracy involved in this. It's just they thought that happened straight away. Yeah. So a bit about Lee Harvey Oswald. He was in 1959. He was in Russia and he tried to renounce his American citizenship. I don't know why he was in Russia, but I think he just went there because I think he was a bit of a communist. And obviously, with the height of the Cold War, America were capitalist, Soviet Union were Russia were communists. So he preferred communists, so he went over there. Yeah. So he tried to come back to America, and he did, obviously. And he had a history of violence. He was in the Marine Corps for 3 years, and he became a qualified sharpshooter with the M1 rifle. And Oswald was a Dallas resident at the time of the shooting. Right, okay. And he was under active surveillance by the FBI. And this is weird, because the FBI, when all this happened, that JFK was going to go to Dallas, Texas, the FBI did not tell the Secret Service about Lee Harvey Oswald. They didn't say anything about him, even though he was being under constant surveillance, and he had a weird history, and he was a communist, a known communist as well. Yeah. And he worked. Lee Harvey Oswald worked at the school depository, book depository, sorry, where the shooting took place on the 6th floor. He worked there, and however, to be fair, the Secret Service didn't inform the FBI of the route, so the FBI didn't know to tell them of Lee Harvey Oswald. If you see what I'm saying. So
things were being kept from each other.
Yeah, sort of. A few holes.
Yeah,
it's a bit odd. Nearly a whole bullet was recovered from Connolly's stretcher, and 2 bullet fragments in the car. They matched the rifle and the bullet casings, because the rifle was found near the 6th floor window, along with 3 bullet casings. And Lee Harvey Oswald also tried to kill Major General Edwin Walker on April 10th, 1963. So this isn't really his first rodeo. He's tried to kill someone before.
Quite experience.
High stature. Yeah. Mm. All this evidence is clear. However, people believe he didn't act alone, because I'll just tell you why later on. But people don't believe it was him alone. Yeah. And we won't know for sure, as Harvey Oswald was killed by Jack Ruby, so we can't know his side of the story.
Where was he going when he was killed? Was he just arrested?
Yeah, I think he was just trying to hide, I guess. Because I think everyone thought he'd be a high person of value because he's a communist, and he didn't. And he was in Dallas, Texas when he worked there where it was shot. So he was just trying to lay low, I think. But the Warren Commission found no evidence of Ruby or Oswald were part of a conspiracy to kill JFK. So people speculate that Ruby killed Oswald to keep him quiet. So they might have been working together, and Oswald might have said something, so Ruby just shot him in case he spilled the beans.
Yeah.
So it's firm. They believe firmly that he acted alone. So that's what the Warren Commission said.
Yeah.
And these, the first bullet was missed. It missed the first bullet, but the second hit JFK in the neck and also hit Connolly. So it was like a collateral that went through JFK to Connolly.
Is that his wife?
That's the guy that's the mayor.
No, not general. The governor. Yeah, the governor of Texas. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Dallas, sorry. Yeah, and then the third was a fatal headshot to JFK. Just to clear that up. And the Warren Commission believes the second bullet hit JFK and Connolly, and this is called the magic bullet theory. So this on the sixth floor window, when Oswald shot the bullet, it entered through the back of JFK's neck, going down through to Connolly's right side of the back, through his right nipple, and out of his right wrist, ended in Connolly's left thigh though. So it went like from the right side of his body to the left side of his body.
Right, yeah.
Which is a bit weird to think, right? Everyone believes this bullet path is impossible. We've got a computer rendering of the event that shows it's possible to consider Connolly to be seated lower than Kennedy, which would make and their body compositions are different, which would make the bullet path a lot more plausible than just shooting it through and then it going through a different side of Connolly. They found the bullet intact in Connolly when they got him out, and his right thigh was still intact, but people really do think it's hard to believe that it will still be intact, like fully intact, more or less, if it went through two bodies. However, when you examine frame by frame of the Zapruder films, there's not enough time for Oswald to fire two shots within the time span of JFK and Connolly being hit. So if the magic bullet theory isn't true, there must be a second shooter.
Right, okay,
so
yeah.
it might not just be Oswald. There's also an eyewitness, James T. Tague, spectator of the motorcade, said a stray bullet hit the sidewalk near him and a fragment of that bullet cheek. And the Warren Commission commented on this statement about the hole in the pavement, and it could be caused by a lead core of a bullet. 3 cartridges were found on the 6th floor, so the 3 shots were shot from that top bit. So this suggests there's more than one shooter if there's a bullet by Tague. There were 6 points found in audio that could contain echo patterns, which could be similar to gunfire. So there's like major points in the audio where it like really spikes up, and that is said to be like a gunfire or a gunshot. And this again suggests there's more than one shooter if there were 6 points of gunshot. All right, Tom. Just get through it. All right. The scientific evidence that I was on about has caused a high probability that 2 gunmen shot JFK. So there's more than one gunman, right? Yeah. So that's what they concluded. That's against the Warren Committee, the Warren Commission. And then there's like some more theories here. That Lyndon B. Johnson had JFK killed for political power.
He wanted
as
to
opposed
get higher up.
Exactly. So rumours that LBJ, there was also rumours that LBJ might have been dropped from the re-election from the ticket next year. So there were rumours saying that he might have not been president, had a chance to get president.
Yeah.
And then LBJ also played a big part in JFK's going to Dallas, because LBJ no longer had political control of Texas, which was also an important state to get loads of votes for Johnson, and he lost power there. So he thought it was necessary for JFK to go back and just try and get power back there. So this is why it's all sort of thinking that LBJ plotted against JFK. And
he could get the job of president. He could work his way up quickly.
Exactly. So Johnson's right-hand man, a high-up Texas lawyer called Byron Skelton, feared for JFK's safety and deemed it not safe. However, JFK was not informed of this information, so he even said to Byron Skelton, the lawyer, told Johnson, it's not safe for him to go, but Johnson didn't say anything, or Johnson's men didn't say anything to JFK's guys. ED called Madeline Brown, who was rumoured to be having an affair with Johnson, they both attended a party, Johnson and Madeline Brown, attended a party along with Richard Nixon, who was an opponent of JFK's in the 1960 election. And the night before the JFK assassination, that was the party, and she claimed to have a conversation with Johnson, who whispered into her ear, "After tomorrow, those Kennedys will never embarrass me again. That's no threat, that's a promise." So that's what he apparently said to Madeline Brown. However, Johnson's movements on this Texas trip were heavily documented. Therefore, this exchange with Madeline Brown did not happen because people said that they documented his every move. And there's no evidence to support he had assassinated JFK, or he had JFK assassinated, and therefore Johnson, and even Johnson helped form the Warren Commission to try and solve it in the first place. A third theory is that 3 different mob groups claim to have been behind the killing: the Chicago mob, Miami mob, and the New Orleans mob. And because Robert Kennedy, JFK's brother, at the time made moves to stop organised crime, and this was angering all the mobs because obviously that's the way they get their money, is organised crime. So also, Jack Ruby, who killed Oswald, the policeman, he owned a Dallas nightclub, and they could have had ties with the mafia. Why are you always laughing?
I'm looking at Tom. He was agreeing to what you said about Jack Ruby. He wasn't even here when you mentioned him.
It's 2.5 hours, mate. There's no need.
That was Tom. You said Jack Ruby. He wasn't even here when you mentioned him.
Just a knobhead, mate.
You can blame Tom for that. Sorry, Andy, carry on.
All right, thank you, mate. And basically, James Files, it's just not even funny.
Look what you've done here, Tom. Andy was going so well. Look what you've done.
Sorry, fellas. Carry on, Andy.
All right, mate. Yeah. So the most compelling evidence of this theory is that there's supposed ties between JFK and this guy called Sam Giancana. And Giancana was the head of the CIA mob. No, not CIA mob, the Chicago mob. Sorry. And JFK's dad, Joseph Kennedy, supposedly worked with Giancana in the bootlegging industry when Prohibition was a thing. So Prohibition was then in the 1920s in America, where alcohol was banned, and there were things like speakeasies opened up to like little private bars that you could go to still drink. So Joseph Kennedy and Giancana worked that together, so that's why they have the ties.
Yeah.
And apparently, there's rumours that the mob helped JFK win the 1960 election in the first place, and Giancana. However, Giancana was then assassinated in 1975 when he was going to testify about his role in a CIA assassination plot. He was just mysteriously assassinated when he was going to say something about the JFK assassinations. So that's a bit odd.
A little bit. It's too much of a coincidence.
And then this is the fourth theory, which is probably the most well-known, when they thought CIA killed JFK. So there's a man called Alan Dulles, who I believe was the former head of the CIA before this, or the first one, I don't know. And do you remember when CIA withheld information to the Warren Commission? And this is just that's a bit odd. Why would you withheld it if you got nothing to hide?
That was one about the route, wasn't it? Not telling them how many.
Yeah,
there were.
And then they also didn't tell them about how they were going to try and kill Fidel Castro so many times, but they just didn't tell them that. But the CIA refers to them withholding information as being a benign cover-up, and some feel that JFK may have found out about CIA plotting to kill Castro, so they felt threatened, and he might have had a different view and might have had a different agenda and not wanted to kill him, even though the CIA wanted to kill him because they thought it'd be best. So they thought they thought he might have just tried to disband the whole of the CIA, and obviously that would get him out of a job. So they tried to plot to kill him. There was also an author, a forensic historian called Patrick Nolan, who wrote a book called CIA Rogues and the Killing of the Kennedys, and theorized 4 high-level agents not only planned the shooting, but 3 of them fired 4 shots. So people feel that the CIA could have hired Harvey Oswald as one of the killers, as he was a known communist. So it would be an easy thing to just say he's a communist. He was going to kill him anyway. And then when I said about the umbrella of air protection, many popular beliefs. This is a big thing. Umbrella of the just phrase. It's a big thing within this conspiracy theory. And then Harvey Oswald acted with a potential. Apparently, he acted with a potential CIA operative referred to as the Umbrella Man. And in the Zapruder films, you can see a man stood alone with an open umbrella above his head, even though it wasn't raining. However, it did rain the night before, but it wasn't raining, and no one else had an umbrella in the crowd. So I don't know why he would have an umbrella if it didn't rain. No one else did.
I think I've seen that. I think I've heard about that one. Yeah, that was quite a famous one.
Yeah, and so when Kennedy was struck by the first bullet, at the moment that he was struck by the first bullet, the car passes the Umbrella Man. Yeah. So that could be a signal. And apparently some say you can see the umbrella move up a foot in the air, maybe as a signal. Or the Umbrella Man, or the umbrella itself was a spy-like weapon that could fire darts, explaining a little hole in JFK's neck, which was probably a bullet hole, but it could have been from the umbrella itself. Tom, stop laughing.
Sorry, no, I'm not laughing.
It's just poor from you, mate. You're just smirking, mate.
What have you done this, Tom?
It's poor, mate.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Ridiculous. Yeah, anyway, describe.
He's making me laugh because I could just see his face.
I know, I'm not. I feel bad.
Don't look at his face then, mate. I saw your mum today at work, Tom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she's a lovely lady, Sarah.
Thanks.
No worries, mate. Yes, it fired silent darts when opened, and in all the pictures, the umbrella's closed after the assassination. All the pictures see him with an umbrella opened, and after you can see the Umbrella Man with the umbrella closed. The Umbrella Man is sat on the curb with another man, looking quite calm and undisturbed. Apparently, the umbrella is a symbol of protest. That's the word. Protest to JFK's father. Some claim it's not proven in footage, and you just can't see a dart going to JFK's head, really. But and some say Witt is not the Umbrella Man, and it's all a misunderstanding, and that Witt is just a cover up for the CIA to cover its own tracks.
Yeah,
that's what I've got, mate.
That's it. It was one hell of a theory.
There you go. Theories.
Yeah. Yeah, for that, Andy. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. So.
Nice, Andy.
Cheers, mate.
Tom's a twat. So, at the end of all that, Andy, what do you think actually happened? Sum it up.
I don't know. In my opinion, I reckon it was potentially the mafia and the mob.
Yeah.
Because all the organised crime is going to go away and all that stuff. What do you boys think?
I think some sort of CIA involvement. If you're watching,
I think the same.
Yeah,
the deep state. If you're watching this, if you're watching this CIA, there's nothing against you. This is what I think. Okay, I think they had some involvement just to try and get rid of him because they didn't agree with decisions he made. So that's personally what I think. I like how you two came out with quite educated theories here, and then mine was about aliens and pyramids. I think it shows you the two smarter ones here. But that's good. That's good episode there, fellas.
Classic, mate.
Yeah, enjoyed that. So
yeah.
So at the end of all that, me and Andy think aliens were involved in Egypt. I think we all think surveillance is bad, but apart from Tom.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say something. And then the assassination was a bit of a one up in the air, but it's a good theory. Andy certainly did your research there, fella. Fair play.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, well done. Yeah,
2 hours, mate. 2 hours.
Good from you, Andy.
Yeah, it's good.
Not even getting paid, mate.
I know, you're just volunteering.
Let's get some ads.
I know, we need a sponsor or something. But we'll be sure to get you boys involved in another one because I think it's a pretty good setup with us four going.
All right, mate.
If anyone's got any final parting words, then
nope.
No, Lewis?
Not for me, mate.
Tom, stop laughing during the podcast. It's very off-putting and disrespectful.
Yeah, I agree.
Very rude.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, yeah. Just to come and say, boys, appreciate it, and
no worries, mate.
during the lockdown that we're still.
Yeah, stay home, boys. Stay home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stay home where you can. Don't be stupid.
Look after yourselves.
All right, boys.
See you in a bit, boys.
Fellas. Ta-da.
See you in a bit.
See ya, bye.